welcome back to the Labyrinth. I'm Anna Pirelli, if you didn't know. You may have noticed, or it may have escaped your attention, that this week I decided to put the letters BSW underneath my signature on the thumbnail. And this is because I keep seeing everybody everywhere putting up their letters, PhD or whatever. So I thought, you know what? I earned these letters. I'm going to put them up as well. So BSW, for people that don't understand, is the abbreviation for Bachelor of Social Work. So if YouTube wants to check my credentials, not a problem. But for you viewers, the important thing to remember is that my qualifications are Australian, and I use a further name to protect the identity of my family members and myself. It means that I am liberated to speak more freely about my life and experiences. And the other thing to remember in regard to letters and professional accreditations is that while I have an academic qualification, I am no longer active within my professional body, which is called the Australian Association of Social Work. So you can interpret from that, because obviously the way things work in different countries is different. In Australia, we're not required to be licensed to practice social work anyway, but you can assume from what I'm saying that I'm no longer a registered social worker, but I don't need to be if I want to do it. And the thing is to actually find out or get information about me, because I've got a further name, the foundation actually wouldn't tell you, is where I'm going. So anyway, I'm waffling. One of the reasons I did decide not to renew my membership is, one, I'm getting a little bit older, and two, you've got to keep doing CPD, and that, which is continuous professional development, which can be quite costly, and I just can't be bothered anymore. So I dropped my membership. I'm putting my focus back on what I originally was studying for anyway, which was actually to help me to be a better support person and empowerer for my clients. Anyway, as I said, I'm waffling. Beyond that, I do hope that life has been very kind to you over the last week, and that everything has been more than manageable for you, that it's been manageable with great ease. I've seen on the news that the weather can be quite difficult, or it's quite cold in some places around the world. Here in Perth, of course, it's been beautiful this last week. We've had a bit of a break from the scorches and the smell of bushfires, and it's a very welcome change. So what's new this week? Well, not everything is immediately obvious. We are on a roll, actually, and you will see it as the content is uploaded. I'd rather actually keep what is happening a surprise, because I find that invariably I announce what I'm going to do, and then somebody else has an opportunity to work on the idea before I've actually finished processing it and applied the creative element, shall we say. So suffice to say, we are going hammer and tong on this side of the video channel, if you like, and we're trying to apply quality images and content and helpful content. But the primary thing, I guess, what's new this week is that we've commenced the process of uploading the universal laws as requested. And I'll talk about that in one of the future slides today, but we've also loaded the content on friendship circles, which is an empowerment strategy and technique, and I recommend it to everybody, okay? So the reason I really recommend this friendship circle series is because it empowers you by helping you to understand your limitations, yourself, to know your strengths, your vulnerabilities, to identify who's trustworthy, who's not, and how you can protect yourself and keep yourself safe by identifying where it might be a little risky to do it. So we will look at, in that video, we definitely look at how you can build trust and how you can identify if people are trustworthy. And to some extent, because we see the word narcissism everywhere at the moment, and to be honest, I actually do think that there is a real increase of them around. But this information that's given to you allows you to protect yourself against the exploitation by these types of people with questionable intent. But the other thing is that even if you did get entrapped, shall we say, because you learn these skills, you'll be able to get yourself out of the situations much quicker, and it will less likely have harmful impacts upon you, or the impacts will be less severe. This is the theory behind delivering this content for you. Anyway, while I've attempted, the problem that I get with it is, yes, my videos are long, But I'm also trying to condense down many hours of study into a short deliverable video for you guys, just to get the information out there. So to put it into perspective, I think really many of these theories, and I actually wouldn't be able to seriously apply how many hours have gone into the learning of this information that I'm sharing in that particular video, because if you say that, each particular word, you may as well say each word, each theme is something that you have a lecture about, and then you've got to do your academic research on the topics and find evidence to expand your own understanding of the words that are used in these videos that I've put up. So there's a lot of information that's been condensed down to actually 3 videos, about an hour and a half long each. Yeah, it looks long to you, but I can tell you it's a lot shorter. And also I paid a lot of money to actually get that experience, which, frustrating. But anyway, it's not lost. Learning's learning. Well, just so you know, while you could start by doing the activity, which is part 3 of that series, it's not that you're not going to benefit from it, because you definitely will. And if I'm honest, I found that book and the strategy probably about 2004, before I'd commenced my university studies. So I did find it helpful, but I can honestly say that going to university and doing the academic study and a little more time down the track was actually far more beneficial. So, well, I shouldn't say far more, that's probably not the right word. It helped. The hand in hand is the best way to explain it. The empowerment is through a mix of all 3 of them. So yeah, I recommend watching all 3. And in future, for your information, any of the self-help type information and content, I'm going to load that on a Friday night. So this slide is actually a response to an email request that I received from Tamara. Tamara, if you watch this is for you and anybody that might be having the same thoughts as you. I've been asked if I'll start teaching people healing again and doing the Reiki, teaching people how to do it, doing their attunements. So my answer to that is, my plans don't include doing it right now. It's a great idea. It's a great suggestion. Thank you very much. Because the rationale behind it is actually to raise the vibration of all of us, I guess, and to direct that healing energy. However, for me, it's about time at the moment. And so it would be a matter of setting aside the time on how I'm going to deliver it. I've got to look at how to do it responsibly as well. And I'll have to review the literature that I've got, because they're given with manuals. I do know that at some point I will be putting up the fundamentals, because this is, I'm all about empowerment and sharing information. But I also know, based on my own if you like, my own patterns of behaviour, and because I don't have an issue with this, I'm quite happy to do it, that I will probably offer Reiki 1 attunements for free. I may turn around and say, well, look, can you give us a donation or whatever to cover the cost of recreating the manual and revisiting that and updating it. But that's because, number one, the reason why I'm happy to do it for free is because I understand that the Reiki masters in Japan were more than happy to teach the poor people in the villages the skills of how to do Reiki, as part of raising their own personal awareness and healing themselves. So these Reiki masters, historically, they taught people how to do the basics. Didn't include a manual, by the way. And when it comes to the Reiki teachers, there was no, just so you know, I'm going to revisit this because this is something that gets up my nose a little bit with egotistical. When we talk about Reiki masters, my understanding is that there is no translation for the word master from Japanese. So the application of the word master next to Reiki teacher is a Western thing, right? So Reiki teachers is what we're talking about. So the Reiki teachers in Japan, they were more than happy to gift the skills to people and to teach people how to balance themselves. But they also worked in teams, from what I understand, and those people that became teachers had to do a form of apprenticeship to learn the skills and to learn how to use the gifts responsibly as well and wisely. And I've actually seen this happen, not called Reiki, but in Indonesia, if you go and visit a healer, you don't visit one healer, you visit a whole team of them, and you have in my experience, it was usually the head man, a sage, and there's a clear line of succession, if you like, so that if he passes over, it's known between the team who's going to inherit the responsibility. Anyway, I think that's probably a better way of describing it. But bottom line is, this is how Reiki used to work as well. I decided to use this image here of the man with the hairy arms with his hands over the woman's face, because actually that's how I do Reiki healing when I do hands-on. It's actually not hands-on, it's hands-off, because we don't actually need to physically touch people, and that's a really big thing for people to know and understand, especially if they've got problems with having people that they don't know come into their personal space and physically contacting them. But I have heard amazing stories from people in regard to the use of energy and this, which is actually hands-on healing. Anyway, love to hear your comments about that. How do you do it? If you're a Reiki healer, if you deliver, do you deliver attunements for free for people with Reiki 1? How do you approach, that would be stuff that I'm interested in. How do you approach the business of, in these modern times, being ethically responsible with the teaching and the sharing of information, and also teaching the skills? That'd be interesting. Let me know. Thank you. So in regard to numerology, the ruling number 3 content has been uploaded. I'm of course still working on the other numbers and having some fun doing research on some of the people that I find out their numbers. It's interesting. I find it interesting. Anyway, don't forget, the content for numerology is loaded on a Monday on the numerology playlist. So for this particular slide, we're going to do a bit of storytelling actually. So what I've been doing to try and keep content interesting for you is I've been researching, and I'm trying to find particular themes of famous people or people that have excelled at certain professions as part of linking it to the actual numerology of them. And I thought, I knew about Nano Nagel, also known as Nano Nagel. I'd heard about her, and I had made the assumption that she would be a ruling 33-6. So I did a Google and I tried to get a birth date. Now, we've got to be clear here that we're talking about somebody that lived a long time ago. So I'm actually not 100% confident that this is actually her birth date, because I haven't seen any evidence to support this. But at the same time, going on the information that's available to me, it's an interesting birth chart anyway. So the history of Nano Nagel is that she was actually voted, I believe, as the most important woman in Ireland's history. So, the old feminist comes to the fore. Let's put in, the numerology on an important woman. The backstory of Nano is that she was born in County Cork in Ireland, and she was born into a very wealthy Catholic family at a time when Ireland was under penal law. I'm reading stuff here. And when being Catholic was considered to be a crime of treason, and if you were a Catholic, it could be punished by death, right? So the consequence of that was, obviously, people did remain Catholic. They just didn't, I guess they hid it as best they could. But it was also illegal for Catholics to be able to access economic, political, social, health and educational rights, which meant the Irish Catholics were not allowed to go to school. It was also illegal for Catholics to send their children overseas for an education. But my understanding is that Nano was smuggled out of the country to a Benedictine convent in France between 1728 and 1733. And she remained there with her sister Anne until the death of her father, and then she came back to Dublin. So where she starts to become famous is that upon her return, apparently she took it upon herself to start educating Catholic children, which of course, if she'd been caught, she would have been killed for it, which is probably why she's acknowledged as being the most important woman in Irish history, because she did challenge the system, and she put her life on the line. What more can you say? Her family, apparently, they were concerned by the risks of her illicit activities to them, so they weren't supportive, from my understanding, of her doing what she was doing. And my understanding too is that when certain people, they become embedded in a culture, and I understand that with the Irish culture and some of these traditions where they talk about the lady with the lantern and that kind of stuff, they're actually referring to Nano Nagel, was one theory that I saw, because not only did she seek to educate Catholic children, apparently she used to sneak around at night time with a lantern, providing health support administration to the people in their homes in the evening. So once again, she could have been killed for that if she'd been caught. You can do a Google yourself on her if you find her story interesting. What else is there about her? Okay, not much that I can think of right now, but let's take a look at her birth chart if it's correct. She's a ruling 3, so she's the positive aspect of the 3. She's got arrows on her birth chart, and the blue arrow is the one that refers to the arrow of practicality, or that's what it's called, and it's about doing the things that need to be done. And this would have been a compelling and driving force for her. She would have to action the visions and her morals and ethics that she believed in. Also, people with that arrow, they're generally very clever people, and as pointed out, they tend to walk tend to walk the walk and follow their instincts. What else? Oh, just a comparison on the positive and the negative. Saddam Hussein also had the arrow of practicality in his birth chart, but within the context of using him as an example, because remember, numerology, as far as identifying paths and people, is not simply a case of here's the number and here's the birth chart. There's other things that come to the fore that are relevant. And I decided to take a look at Saddam Hussein's because clearly he's negative 4. For him, there was a caution against materialism, because if he didn't address his materialistic side, then there was the potential that he would become cruel and hard and his personality would be left wanting. How interesting is that, right? But anyway, moving back to the chart, the green arrow refers to the arrow of activity, and this is about linking the wisdom, the knowledge, and all of that perception to the number 8, which represents ambition and responsibility, and is, to some extent, this arrow is associated with hyperactivity. But given that so many young people and even adults today are diagnosed with, ADHD and that kind of thing, I'm not sure that all of their charts would align with the diagnosis. If they haven't got this arrow here, that I'm not saying that they don't have hyperactivity or whatever. I'm just saying that there's a lot of diagnoses, and it would be an interesting exercise to see if all these people have a 9, 8, 7 and that arrow on their charts. Historically and traditionally, hyperactivity was not considered to be a behavioural disorder or even an intellectual disability. And I know that for a fact because I used to be accused of being hyperactive as a child and that I grew out of it. Another person with the arrow, that same arrow on their birth chart, was actually John D. Rockefeller. If you don't know who he was, he was one of the world's first billionaires because he discovered oil. And what I learned doing my little research for this is that his first successful business thing was because he was marketing oil as a laxative. And then later on it became something for petrol, petrol for cars. Fascinating, weirdly fascinating, or obviously I'm easily titillated or something. So anyway, point being, I don't think we're going to see a birth chart like this for a very long time again. So speaking of arrows and my quest for information and knowledge, I happened to see something on social media somewhere where a child had been born on the 22nd of February 2022, and I can tell you that my eyes bounced open. So, because I was like, oh my God, what's that birth chart going to look like? What are the implications of a birth chart like this? So what I did was I've created this one just for fun for us to have a look at. The ruling number for this person is actually the 12/3. You can find out what that means by looking at the content for the ruling number on the video for 3. God, I'm really waffling today. Okay, so under this vibration, there is achievement, control, peace, and intuitive perception of the self through sacrifice and courage. right? That's the first things. They are divinely aware of the reasons for spiritual growth and to find truth and understand universal love, wisdom, and strength of will. Okay. What else have we got? I'm not going to go all into that 12-3 business, right? I'm going to take a look at these arrows because look at that, it's an absolute cluster. So on this birth chart, we have the arrow of activity, also known as hyperactivity, as discussed on the previous slide. But this person also has the arrow of frustrations, which is the purple slide. They have the purple arrow. They have the yellow arrow means the arrow of poor memory. So the parents of this child would need to be doing memory games with this child so that she retains the strength of mind and power of mind into a dotage. What else have we got? Oh, when they've got the arrow of frustrations, which that's the purple one that we were talking about, the problems associated with this, the reason why it's called the arrow of frustrations is because she's probably going to have very high moral expectations of other people, that other people are, they're human. They're probably not going to live up to them very well. And invariably, these people with this arrow, they become disappointed because of people letting them down. There's representations here that she's inquisitive. Actually, it was a little girl, I forgot to mention that. And she's very eager to learn more and to understand more, even if she forgets it, apparently, would be indicated on this birth chart. The number of twos on this birth chart probably would be I think the most unsettling that parents would need to be really careful with, because there is such a heightened emotional sensitivity and compassion that it actually can go the other way, where they become quite reactive because they have difficulty processing the emotions. The best thing for a parent to do with a child with this number of twos is actually to teach them to balance their responses and reactions, and to work with them, to develop memory skills would be the first thing, and how to make balanced and healthy decisions through managing their emotional responses. And a good thing that a parent could do would be to encourage them in creative endeavours. And actually, the other one is to teach them to be orderly and organised so that they can retain that balance in their personality. So anyway, that was just hopefully a little bit of fun and interesting for you. We will be talking about arrows and the birth chart in the series that will be uploaded onto Numerology. So technology continues to be an absolute nightmare for me. I've had a new modem delivered today, so I'll plug that in later and give it a whirl. Hopefully that will make a difference to my internet speeds. I think my microphone is okay. I've got a new one. I'm hoping this is better. Let me know if it's not good or if it's a problem. And if it's not good, can you let me know, please, of one that actually is good but not going to break the bank? Because I've bought about 4 of them now. It's getting to be a bit of a costly exercise. Also, in regard to my internet speeds, I've been informed through a phone call yesterday that the government is finally recognising, yay, they are rocket scientists, that our internet speeds are absolutely inadequate, and they're going to be doing upgrades. It comes with conditions, but it'll take about 8 weeks before I can expect to get download and upload speeds of 100 Mbps or whatever it's called, which frankly, on a good day, I'm getting 20 at the moment, and on a bad day, I'm getting about 6. So I will be very happy if that happens, but it's unlikely that it will be in place before the end of January, I got told. So here's fingers and toes crossed for the new year. So, I've previously stated, you will see that we've got the new playlist for universal laws. Now, I'm still continuing to work with the content on it because there is actually 105 of them. And what I'm doing is I'm actually revisiting the paragraphs for the actual videos, and then having a discussion around what that means and what it looks like, because it can look very complex when you first look at each individual law. I have observed that there's grammatical errors and things like that. And anyway, you're invited to leave your comments and your feedback, because this is how we all grow. One of the things I did notice today, because I'm actually working hard and fast to get as many there, and scheduled and ready to go, that there is things that once I've recorded them and then I go away, something always comes to your head and you think, oh, I should have added that, or I should have mentioned this. Well, I'm not going to go back and repeat them. I think that, or repeat the recordings. I think where there's gaps or where I haven't mentioned anything, it's just going to be a good conversation point for the future, when hopefully I can deliver lives and we can talk about what you might feel has a different interpretation to what I've made, and all of that kind of thing. So we are trying to do the best that we can under limited circumstances. But anyway, yeah, reminder, these are going to go on a playlist. They're going to be loaded daily over the next 105 days. So you will be able to see one each day. And I would encourage you to reflect on what they mean for you, because just because something means something to me doesn't mean it's going to mean the same thing to you. Okay, because we're all different. We may have similarities, but we also have differences. So, my friends, that's it for today. I do hope you have a great week. Stay in touch, share the journey. I will leave you with one little bit of thought, though. I've been sort of not struggling, I've been having a inner dialogue, is the better way to describe it, with myself about when will I reveal this, or when will I drop this little bit in. If you haven't done your family ancestry, I'm going to drop it in today. If you have yet to do your family ancestry or look at it, I would encourage you, because it'll be a very interesting exercise, to take a look at your family history and the birthdays of your parents and your children and your partner and all of this kind of stuff, and work out what their ruling numbers are, just to start with, because you might start to notice patterns, and I'll be very surprised if you don't, and those patterns are going to reveal to greater awareness, and that will be a discussion point in the future. All right. In the meantime, take care, my friends. Be blessed. Have a wonderful week. And I will speak to you next Sunday. And hopefully the lives will be on the radar sooner rather than later. Take care. Be blessed. Bye-bye.